Hello everyone, today our group will present a tutorial on Hollywood movies and global century. I'd like to talk a little bit about Hollywood movie before we begin. One of Hollywood's cream comes from the film of the picture. He and Current Anson read in Imagination Community, National Imagine to become a community because although every possible we see in the national generate inequality and exploitation, people always be invested as a profound life, equality of a comrade. In the end, it is this kind of camaraderie that has driven millions of people over the past 2 centuries to think height of die for the sky of a nation, a limited imagination. This kind of imaginary picture makes people identify with each other in a stranger way. Hollywood movies show this kind of imagination, turning the Hamlet of 1,000 people into a Hollywood Hamlet, and constantly creating American myths in the imagine. Almost in Hollywood, blogswords tells the stories of the Americans. American English, American ancestors, American social institutions, American clothing and food, as well as American behavior and habit and theaters are the standards matching of Hollywood movies. Although the story in the film mainly takes place in the United States, the content shown in the film has the satires and the transcending national serialists. Hollywood film has been constantly exploring and contenting the culture of various countries and nations, and have been telling American stories with the culture of other countries. This reflects the value transformed beyond the nation. Hollywood movies are popular all over the world because of their high quality, contact, and beginning integration and development. In today's globalization, to tell Chinese stories well, the United States has a large, diverse population, and the value Hollywood covers in the universal contradiction among the myriad contradictions of people. So it has the beyond the national theaters. Finally, the popularity of Hollywood film is inseparable from the access to the global market. Bringing Hollywood stories to countries around the world is a complex task with many obstacles. Thank you. Next, my term members will conduct the in-depth analysis of the tutorial context.
Hi everyone and good morning. I am Ayman Ismail Waibusar. Today I present the questions 3.4. First questions: how have Hollywood movies influenced national cultures outside the United States? A. Relying on the world top and most complete industrial system in film industry, it has engaged leading positions compared with other countries through the technical strength and evaluation standard, while the production level of other countries is far less than that of the United States. Thus, Hollywood films are more popular in all countries, and in America and the American cultures, value content in Hollywood films is provided with an excellent way to spread. B. Through the American mainstream values contained and reflected in the film, the culture's value is exported with provide a lot of rich reference of the world to understand the American culture's value. See, the cultural openness of the United States has observed different cultures in a made of different countries. Thus, it has the sense of cultures infinity of full mobilized different cultures factors of importing countries, further promoting the spread of your Hollywood movies and improve and providing a good foundation for the export of culture's value. Second question is what aspect of American cultures do Hollywood movies promote around the world? A. American individualism are portrayed in the United States, namely the American dream. The sense of justice contained therein is the accumulations of human spread wealth and people's unreturning pursuit of truth and goodness and beauty. The integral theme of Love's movie, namely the freedom of love, reflect the obligations of form of freedom in American cultures. The spirit of the optimism embodies the instance of optimism and confidence in the future. See a unique sense of meaning of the world, of the life. An American philosophy with drift with the wind. Third questions: what positive influence have Hollywood movies had on world cultures? A. Promoted a concept of freedom, democracy, and equality through American core value. B. It helps audience realize their inner dreams and establish in the spiritual world that cannot be reflected in their daily life. That's all for me, I think.
Movies have a negative impact on the why business is done around the world because movies lead to prejudice, mostly negative and false prejudice. They believe what they see in the movie. They believe the situation in the movie is a fact and reality. This misleads people and negatively affects management, tax, company activities, uh, and other ways of doing business around the world. While watching foreign movies is effective way to learn how to do business abroad. For example, when people want to do business in Japan, that person can watch a Japanese movie because your Japanese movie usually have Japanese culture. And for watching foreign movies will help a person to understand the local culture, and this understanding will allow that person to conduct business uh, around abroad more effectively.
Hello everyone, my name is Wang Cong. I will answer the question 3.6. Hollywood movies are very popular abroad, but foreign films are not viewed much in the United States. What force demand the higher demand for Hollywood films? Why are they so popular in Europe, Japan, Latin America, and elsewhere? Why are foreign films demand so little in the United States? What can foreign filmmakers do to increase demand for their movies in the United States? First, the number of fans determine the higher demand for Hollywood movies. The United States product 70% of the world's films and star and decorate how good reputations and worldwide appear, so they are very popular. And films in other countries are still developing. There is a big gap between the quality and the status of Hollywood films, so the demand for films in other countries is very low. According to the those of comparative advantage, countries should specialize in making films in their best fields and important learning how to complete production in older films. That's all, thank you.
Hello, my name is Yang Jiale. Let's talk about the Hollywood and world culture. Just as movies reflect the identity, beliefs, and values of the cultures that produce them, they also help to shape and solidify a culture's beliefs. Sometimes the influence is trivial, as in the case of fashion trends or figures of speech. Hollywood's major film studios are the main source of the world's most commercially successful and highest-grossing films. In addition, many of Hollywood's highest-grossing films have made more money outside the US and at the box office than films elsewhere. Hollywood films Americanize global values and beliefs, so they somehow weaken nation culture identities and adapt and reinforce American custom. People tend to copy American ideas, customs, and culture, or in the other words, they tend to adapt to the culture. But Hollywood films glorify sex and violence, taking the moral value of all societies and leading their young astray. Even in America, the ethical values of Hollywood and come under considerable attack in the 2000 presidential race.